This is the video for Lesson 5.5, Dividing Fractions. Now before watching this, I hope you filled out the chart at the top of the page. If not, stop the video. Go back and do that, and then replay the video again. So those of you who are still with me, we're doing 1/2 times 2. That was 2 over 1. We can divide out of 2. We get 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 over 1 is just 1. 1/3 times 3. The 3's divide out. Get the same thing. Over here, 4's divide out. We get 1. 2/3 times 3 over 2. We can divide out of 3. We can divide out of 2. We get 1. 3, 3, 5, 5. We get 1. Over here, same thing. We get 1. Okay, so hopefully we can kind of see what is going on here. Okay, we had 11/12 times 12 over 11. Okay, same numbers, but they're flipped. The numerator goes to the denominator comes up to the numerator, and it gives us an answer of 1. So in this column, if we're trying to figure out what number goes here so that we get 1, well, we're going to flip our 5 and our 6. So it should be 6/5. 9/20 times 20 over 9 is going to give us 1. And then here, doesn't matter that it came second, 17 over 8 times 8 over 17 is going to give us 1. Okay? So what you just discovered are reciprocals. Reciprocals are two non-zero numbers whose product is 1. Okay, and to find a reciprocal, you're going to take your numerator and your denominator, and you're going to flip them. Okay, so here we have a chart. 5, which is really 5 over 1. We flip it, becomes 1/5. So 5 and 1/5 are reciprocals. 2/7, its reciprocal is 7 over 2. Negative 5 over 8, that negative doesn't really matter right now. You just flip your numbers. 8 over 5, and you stick the negative back on. Remember, we can stick the negative up top also, or we can stick the negative in the bottom. And finally, we have 0.1. And now you might be sitting there saying, wait a second, that isn't a fraction. However, hopefully by now we know that we can write this as 1/10. If we flip our numerator and our denominator, we get 10 over 1, which is just 10. So if they give you a decimal and they say, what is the reciprocal? You can always change it to a fraction first and then flip your numerator and your denominator. Okay, now these reciprocals are going to be important to divide. Now in class, I keep hearing people say, oh, I don't like division. But dividing fractions, there's only one tiny little extra step, and then we end up with a multiplication problem. Okay, it says to divide by any non-zero number, multiply by its reciprocal. So an example, 7 over 8 divided by 3 over 4. Your first number stays the same, 7 over 8. Our division changes to multiplication, and our 3/4, we take the reciprocal of it, and it becomes 4/3. So over here, if we do it with algebra, our first fraction stays the same, a over b. Our division changes to multiplication, and then we take the reciprocal of our second fraction. So c over d, we're going to flip them. We get d over c, and if we wanted to keep going on that one, now we just multiply across. AD over BC. You might have heard your teachers in the past say copy, change, flip. I think that's the common shortcut for doing fraction division. So if that helps you, go for it. Copy, change, flip. Let's do example 1. We're going to copy our first fraction, so negative 2/5. Our division changes to multiplication. And we're going to flip our second fraction. Okay, take the reciprocal of 4/7, and that is 7/4. And now we're just doing what we did last night. We have a multiplication question with fractions. We could just sit there, multiply our numerators, multiply our denominators. However, we can divide out a common factor first and make our lives a little bit better. So we can say 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 4 twice. And now we're going to multiply like before. 1 times 7 gives us 7. 5 times 2 gives us 10. And a negative times a positive is a negative. So it's -7/10. Now, you can check these answers to see how you did. We're not going to do it with all questions, but it's an option that you could use to check your work. To check, we can multiply the quotient by the divisor. Okay, let's go through the parts of a division question real quick. Okay, the first number is the dividend. It's divided by the divisor, which gives you a quotient. So that means we're going to take the quotient, which we got as -7/10. We're going to multiply it by the divisor, which is 4/7, and hopefully we should get back our dividend, -2/5. So let's divide out a 7 from our numerator up here, our denominator down here. We can say 2 goes into 4 twice, and 2 goes into 10 5 times. 1 times 2 is 2. 5 times 1 is 5. Negative times a positive is a negative. And it matches what we originally had. Okay, flip your paper over. Let's divide some mixed numbers. Now, just like when we did multiplication, before we can divide mixed numbers, we need to change them to improper fractions. Okay, please, please, please do not do this. This is not what I want to see. Do not write this down. Okay, do not keep 4 1/6 and change this to multiplication and then say, well, reciprocal of 2/3 is 3/2, and then go from there. No. You have to change to improper fractions before you can flip. Okay, so 4 1/6, that's going to be 25/6. We're dividing it by a -5/3. And now we can rewrite our question. Okay, multiply by the reciprocal, copy, change, flip. So 25/6 stays the same. Our division becomes multiplication. And the reciprocal of -5/3 is -3/5. Okay, multiplication question now. Divide out your common factors. 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into 25 5 times. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 6 twice. So I have 5 times -1. I'm going to ignore the negative for now. Sorry, 5 times 1 is 5. 2 times 1 is 2. And a positive times a negative is a negative. And then finally, we want to write it as a mixed number again. So that would be -2 1/2. Okay, pause the video. Give these 4 questions a try. And when you're ready, hit play again. Okay, for number 1, we're going to keep 7/12 the same. And then we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of 2/3, which is 3/2. Cancel out common factors. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 12 4 times. 7 times 1 is 7. 4 times 2 is 8. 7/8. Number 2. Copy -4/9. We're going to change division to multiplication. And we're going to flip our second fraction. Well, 4 can be divisible by 2, so 2 goes into 4 twice. 2 goes into 8 4 times. And that looks like the only thing we can do here. 2 times 11 is 22. 9 times 4 is It's 36, and oops, I made a mistake. Okay, actually, we can divide out some more here. I didn't see that for some reason. So you could have just divided by 4, okay, but since I just did it by 2, we can do it by 2 again. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 4 2 times. That's a little bit better. 1 times 11 is 11. 9 times 2 is 18. And a negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, now notice I kind of made that mistake, and when I got to my final answer, I had 2 even numbers, so I knew something was up. Okay, so it's okay if you don't catch all your factors at once. Just make sure in the end that you do get a simplified answer. For number 3, okay, we have to change our mixed number into an improper fraction before we can continue. So we have 3/8 divided by, this gives us 55/6. Notice I just rewrote the question, no flipping, just changed the mixed number to an improper fraction. So now I can multiply by my reciprocal. So 3/8 stays the same, change it to multiplication. We get 6 over 55. I'm going to divide out a 2 from here. So 2 goes into 6 3 times. 2 goes into 8 4 times. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 55. Let's see, 4 times 5 is 20, so I'm going to write down the 0, carry the 2 in my head. 4 times 5 is 20, plus that 2 is 220. Last one. Okay, change them to improper fractions. So this is negative 21 over 4. This is 12 over 5. Okay, we're going to say copy, change, flip. So negative 21 over 4 stays the same. We'll change it to multiplication. Flip 12 over 5 to 5 over 12. Let's see, 3 goes into 12 4 times. 3 goes into 21 7 times. 7 times 5 is 35. 4 times 4 is 16. And a negative times a positive is a negative. Okay, when we can't leave it as an improper fraction, we have to change it to a mixed number. So 16 goes into 35 twice, which would be 32, with 3 left over. So it's negative 2 and 3/16. Okay, let's do a word problem. You want to join strips of wood that are 15 inches long and 1 5/8 inches wide to make a cutting board that is at least 12 inches wide. How many strips are needed? Okay, there's some extra information here that we don't need. Okay, does it matter how long our board is? The answer is no. We just want to know how many strips we need out of our 12 inches. Okay, so we're going to say, let's take that 12 inches wide, and we're going to divide it by the width of each one, which is 1 5/8. Okay, so we are going to change this to an improper fraction. Okay, and it might be helpful to also write this as 12 over 1, but we have 12 over 1 divided by 13/8. Okay, which if we copy, change, flip, we get 12 over 1 times 8 over 13. Okay, can't simplify it at all, can't divide out any common factors, so we're going to do 12 times 8, which is 96. 1 times 13 is 13. Okay, and let's see, 13 goes into 96, that would be 7 times. Okay, 13 times 7 is 91. And that would mean there's 5 left over. So it's 7 and 5/13. Okay, now because we can't have 5/13 of a strip, okay, we need to use a whole number. Okay, and since we want it at least 12 inches wide, Okay, if we just use 7, that's not going to give us enough. Okay, so we need to use that extra strip in order to ensure that our cutting board is 12 inches wide. So our final answer to this word problem would be 8 strips. Okay. I leave you with a little poem. Multiplying fractions is as easy as pie. Multiply each straight across and then simplify. Dividing gets a bit tricky. There's an extra step to take. First, flip the one you're dividing by, and the rest's a piece of cake. Okay, if you have any questions, write them down, and we will practice this tomorrow.